Hey guys, I'm making a little bit different of a video today. I have no intention on hating on people. I just want to react to this video, or at least a portion of it. It's 2 minutes and 27 seconds. React to a portion of it and try to help people steer clear. I feel like this is my duty now. Not only do I teach people how to live a financially free lifestyle by making money, I want to take the other side of that coin and kind of react to people's situations and try to help maybe give some decent advice on what to do. The one thing I will say is I feel like this is a start to a new era on this channel where I tend to react to some content. The reason why I say that is because I have had, and I'm very, very fortunate to this, I feel like one of the lucky few people on this planet. I've had great parents that really held me down from a financial perspective, teaching me what's right or wrong. For those who don't know, I grew up very, very, very poor, but my parents were never in debt, believe it or not. Now, don't get me wrong, we were very poor, but debt wasn't a thing that was really talked about. And when I say debt, I mean everything outside of like a home loan, okay? I remember my parents would drive around in this like 26-year-old car that was older than me, and they were driving the car, and that was the only car we had. The whole entire, family experience, I guess you could say. We held on to that car for dear life. Obviously, we had a, really good situation, being that my parents weren't in debt, and honestly, I have to say, my parents had a really good head on their shoulders. I'm growing up now, and I'm seeing that a lot of young children, a lot of people growing up, don't have that. I hate to say that, not to be insulting, like I said, but I just want to kind of react to certain content now to try to help people make more money. And really just live financially free. Even if you don't make more money, you could still be closer to financial freedom. And when I say financial freedom, my first real situation from that is getting out of debt. This person, from what I understand, has $180,000 in debt. I saw like a little glimpse of this video on YouTube. I had to get to the original creators page. I had to show them some love. So this person's channel, I guess you could call it, on TikTok. I don't have a TikTok channel page, but her TikTok page is called Along with Kelsey. So if you want to go follow her, shout out to her. I'll always give credit to the content creator that makes the content, even if I don't necessarily agree. But let's go ahead and react to this. So let me make sure real quick that you guys are going to hear everything. Let me pause my... All right, so I got my screen voice recorder here. So let's go ahead and listen to what this person has to say. Sorry about that. Let's listen now to what this person has to say.
I all by myself have accrued over $180,000 worth of debt. And what makes that especially terrible is that 6 months ago I had zero debt.
That is tremendous. $180,000 of debt. 6 months ago, $0 of debt. Let's just listen to this a little bit more.
6 months ago, I was working a job that I loved but did not pay very well because it was a nonprofit. And then a former coworker called me up and asked me if I would come to work for her at her new company and offered me a major, major pay raise. So I obviously accepted and saw a major influx in my salary and thought to myself, okay, this is my opportunity to get out of the neighborhood that I was living in that was not particularly safe, but was affordable to me with my previous job. So I bought a new house. And at the time, I had someone living with me, renting from me, but she moved to Canada to get her PhD, and so she is no longer living with me. And I now have this giant house that is so beautiful, but that I cannot afford. And on top of the fact that I have a mortgage now that I did not have before, I have also had to have all of the windows replaced, have a new water heater installed. And with
All right, so now she's going down the line about the maintenance of property. A while ago, this was pre-COVID, I bought a farm. A lot of people don't know this, but I bought a farm. And, that was the first real property that I bought that had issues. When I say issues, I've bought property before overseas and things like that, but it never really had issues. But the farm was the first property that I bought that had real issues. Everything she's saying here, water heater, I don't know what else she's saying, but yeah, the property had real issues. And to be honest, it wasn't even in my mentality. It wasn't in my brain. It wasn't in my mind. It didn't come up at the time. And it was something that I never really thought of. But yeah, that's just part of, unfortunately, owning real estate, is that things go bad. Entropy is very real. Things break down. Which is, once again, why I told this story about the French drains. For those who don't know, I have this blog that was very profitable where I was selling an ebook about French drains and French drain systems. And the only reason why I learned about French drains is because the basement was failing in one of the buildings on the farm property. So that's kind of how, full circle. But yeah, anyways, let's keep listening.
With the water heater came a water softener, and there were foundation issues that I had to fix, and there were issues with wood rot on the outside. All of these things have compiled, and I now found myself as a single person with a single income with over $180,000 in debt and a mortgage that I cannot afford. And on top of that, I'm
not sure, where is the $180,000 in debt separate to the mortgage? Or is this like college loans or something? That's what I want to know. It doesn't sound like it's loans, but it could be a house loan. I mean, I'm not sure. Let's keep listening.
Together. And so I'm going to record for all of you my journey to get my life together, my debt. This is pretty embarrassing, so I have blocked every single person that I know and every single person they know. The whole All
right, so let's keep listening to the story.
Okay, this is a really great question, and the answer is twofold. The first reason
I think it's a house property mortgage issue, the $180K. I think so. All right, so here's the deal. Let's talk about how the world is going, because I see stuff like this happen all the time to people, at least more now than ever before. And I feel like I could talk about this. I'm not just some guy who makes money online. I really prioritize making money online for the purpose of financial freedom. So let's kind of break this down logically. An individual who's making, let's say, a low level of income, because she said she was working at a nonprofit, and let's face it, nonprofits don't really pay that well. They don't really have tremendous upward mobility, and they're really just not built out companies. There's not a lot of positions available, at least compared to like a normal organization like, a FANG company or something like that. She's probably not making that much. She gets some offer at a new place, and she was basically, in a kind of a way, house hacking. Not fully, but she was kind of house hacking by having somebody inside her property help her pay down the rent. She wasn't necessarily living there for free, but it was helping her, right? That person moved, and then everything kind of toppled because she had fees that she had to pay for she didn't know about. She had a lot of construction issues. So what does this really mean? Well, what you could deduce from all this is that she got into the deal without a lot of money in the first place. And whatever situation she was making money was temporary, whether she knew about it or not, whether she believed it was temporary or not, is temporary. If you guys look at a lot of my videos, I've always said this over and over and over and over again. I said, the income that you make that you do not have ownership over is temporary. When you make money off of Amazon and you be making $100K a year, it's temporary. Therefore, you should not count it. It will show up in your bank account. You will pay tax on it, but you should not count it as your actual income. You make a mental note in your mind and say, this is temporary money. It's not going to be here forever. That is exactly why I tell you guys, be aware of the money that you're making. Anything that you have ownership over, you can count that as your actual income. Anything that you do not have ownership over, like, for example, any marketplace income like TeePublic, like Adobe stock, like Redbubble, all these kind of things, they're great to make money off of. TeePublic, Amazon, Merch by Amazon, Amazon FBA, all these things are amazing strategies to make money. However, they are not sources of income that you can depend on, and therefore, even your job, they are not sources of income that you could depend on, therefore you should never count them. And when I say count them, I say in a mental note, when somebody asks you, how much money do you make? You never say the total, because the total represents everything. You only say the number that you could mentally think of that you have full ownership over. So, let's say, for example, I worked at an organization somewhere. that organization will eventually either fire me or I have to leave. Now, I hate to say that, but in 1980, 1990, even 2005, it was kind of well known that when people work for a company, they stay there pretty much for their whole life. They stay there their whole life for that company. They might move from state to state, but they're still working for the same company. Eventually, when it comes to retire, they get a great pension. They retire. Maybe they get the Rolex, too, as a parting gift, and the company says, farewell, hope you have a nice life. And that's it. But that's not the world today. There's a lot of job, I guess you could say, self-firing, because people quit from jobs and they go to find higher positions that pay more, and that's really the way that they boost their salary. So that's like a tactic now. That's like a thing now. And if you look at it, companies like Facebook, or Meta, I should say, X, Amazon, all these different companies, they're not really resting on you being a great employee and holding you forever. They are very okay with replacing you. And it's just the culture now. It's just, it is what it is, which is to say that if you want to achieve financial freedom and you're currently an employee, don't look at the money that you're making from your job as permanent. And I know that's a scary thing to say, but if you view it in that shape, you might kick your butt into high gear and now go look for other sources of income, be it online, be it another job, whatever, that can help be a foundation or just like a pick-me-up in case anything goes terribly wrong. And here's the thing. Nobody thinks that something's going to go wrong until it does. So you need savings. And I know that's not the cool thing to say on the internet. Everybody wants to be the next Lambo guy, showing off the Lambos and showing off the mansions and the Ferraris. And it's cool to do all those kind of things, but you really need to take care of safety first. And what is safety? Safety is getting rid of debt, eliminating debt, if you can. That's really what you should do. It's not easy, but you should do it. Getting rid of debt. The second thing is eliminating business debt, okay? Now, I have a lot to say about business debt. You got always those type of people that say, well, Apple goes into debt every quarter on purpose. Listen, you're not a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You don't have access to multi-billions of customers that are going to buy your products every year. So you need to get rid of business debt as well. People think business debt is good debt and personal debt is bad. No, in my opinion, it's all bad. You need to cut vices like gambling and all kinds of other things that cost you money. And then what you need to do is create some sort of savings for yourself. And then after that, as you start to get a savings, you need to start prioritizing multiple sources of income. Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, unfortunately, we live in a world now where having multiple sources of income is kind of a necessity. And maybe not for the older generations. They're taken care of. They might have some Social Security. They might have a pension on top of that. They might have another side hustle. But the truth is, for us, for young people, you need to be able to have multiple sources of income and everything else I just said. Those 5 other things, right? And in a world today, it's only getting harder. I looked at numbers this morning about people who do like sports betting, which is gambling. There's no other way to put it. It's higher than it ever was. Ever. Like in history. And young kids now are developing these addictions that are really just taking over their lives in a negative way. And it's one of the most catastrophic things ever. Because when you lose your money, guys, especially at a young age, you're just taking the feet from under you and just chopping them off. You can't really do anything. If you had to move to a new state or move to a new country, you couldn't. If you had a child that you needed to provide for, you couldn't. You couldn't do anything. So these vices, these bad things that are kind of, holding you back in life, it really comes down to money. And really what it also comes down to is two things: impulsivity and emotion. And I hate to say that because everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to be the person, that cuts the ribbon on their first house. Yes, I got my first house. I'm so happy. I'm so proud. All this kind of stuff, young age. But the truth is that you can't be impulsive with these kind of things because they will ruin you and they will set you back. I bet you when she was buying this house and she had that amazing job, she was not thinking that all these things could possibly go wrong at the same time. So honestly, if you're listening to this and you're young, Or maybe even if you're a little older, live with your parents. That's my advice. Live with your parents, save as much money as you can, and when you're ready to go out there into the world, go out there. Do it. But once again, young people have this thing in them, and maybe it's just our generation, I don't know, but they have this thing in them where it's almost like they want to prove themselves to the world. They want to prove themselves. And they put themselves in unnecessary situations. I'm here to tell you as a brother to everybody listening. I really can't give this person advice because, you don't know the whole story, but think of what a logical person would do and then do everything that logical person would do, which is A, save money, like I said, don't get into debt, B, don't open the door to vices. It's much easier to keep the door closed than to open it and then try to close it. And when I say that is addictions, like real problems. You don't have to worry about ever going to rehab if you've never touched cocaine in your life. All of a sudden when you touch cocaine, now you're going to become an addict because everybody does. Like anybody who sits there and says, I'm never going to be an addict, that's just not true. You take drugs, you're going to become an addict. Now you have to close that door when you could have never opened it in the first place. And that goes for every vice. That goes for drugs. It goes for alcohol. That goes for gambling, pornography. I mean, it goes everything. And yeah, there's a lot more bad in this world than good, honestly. And I feel like the world at one point in time didn't feel that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like in the 60s or the 70s, yeah, there was a lot going on that might have been not so good, but, at one point in time, the world kind of felt like a safe place. But at this point, at least the way my parents describe it, seemed like a safe place. But now, it seems very unstable from all regards, politically, economically, financially for people. I mean, just so many issues. So that's kind of my advice in this situation to anybody listening. And yes, I will make more reaction videos in the future. This is my first one. I feel like I can't fully talk about financial freedom if we don't expose certain things that people are going through and iron them out. And that way, everybody can say that they've been told not or to do something. And the reason what I'm saying is I could tell you growing up, for some reason, my mother always used to tell me, Mark, never do drugs. Never do drugs. Never do drugs. Never do drugs. If somebody gives you drugs for free, don't take them. Never do drugs. And at the time, I felt like my mother was just repeating herself for no reason. And my parents must have said that like literally 100,000 times. And, when I was offered drugs to, in high school, for some reason, I was just like, nah, I'm good. No, thank you. And if it wasn't for my parents saying it literally 100,000 times, maybe if they only said it 90,000 times, I would have taken those drugs. And then I would have never been the person I am today. So good parenting is crucial. And I am very fortunate, like I said, to say that my parents, I truly believe, were the best parents on planet Earth. We weren't rich, but they were the best parents on planet Earth. And I could take that information and give it to you guys through these form of reactions. And so, hey, that's what I'm doing here. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this style video, and maybe you want to see more. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Bye.